Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going through the books that I read in January. So we can actually do this in order because I have here my reading journal with me. So the books in here are noted by the date that I read them. The majority of these books I have actually listened to and not read physically, at least not in the entirety of them, because I had an eye surgery, so I couldn't really read and I couldn't really do much of anything. So the only thing I was doing was listening to audiobooks, and I don't complain. First book that I've listened to is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. So if you don't know what this book is about, it's the second book in Alex Stern series, in which a girl is a member of a secret society at Yale University, and there's all kind of magic stuff in it. The first book I've liked, but I was weirded out by it actually, because it's such a different book. It's an adult fantasy book, and it was, you could say, darker than I expected, so maybe that's the reason why I was so shocked when I read it, and I needed to cool down a bit from it. The second book I really enjoyed. It was very interesting. Once you get into the story and once you get to know the characters a bit more and the structure of these secret societies, you get familiar with it, and then you really get sucked into the story. And I rated this book 4.7 out of 5. Next book was Crave by Tracy Wolff. Let me tell you, as a big fan of vampire books, a big fan of Twilight at its time, I was really thrilled to find out about this book. And I was really curious to read it because many people compare it to Twilight. Personally, it doesn't feel like Twilight to me. Actually, I really enjoyed this book. It's about a girl that has lost her parents, and then she comes to her uncle, which is the headmaster of this school in Alaska. And she, of course, doesn't like the whole thing and the school, and she's like weirded out by school and the kids that go there. And we find out that they're actually monsters, and of course there's vampires. This is a YA book, and something really funny, we could say funny, crossed my mind, and that's that YA books don't have spicy romance in them, but they have unbearably grotesque fighting scenes, like broken limbs, multiple fractures, I don't know, a lot of blood. And I just think that's interesting to have in YA book. And adult books are not like that. They do not have, at least I feel like that's true, they do not have these really vivid descriptions of wounds. Let me know what you think about that. So this was a really fun read, and I rated it 4 out of 5. Next book was Babel by R.S. Kuang, and let's have a moment of silence for me in this book. So I had really high expectations from this book, and if you don't know what it's about a translation institute in Oxford, and there is like magic in all of the institutions which keeps the world going, I guess. Since I studied translation and I love magical books, I thought this would be the perfect book for me. It wasn't. Now, the amount of research that went into this book is surely unimaginable, and I respect that, but I think that the original idea that was behind it was just not executed well enough, or maybe interesting enough for me at least, and that actually broke it down for me. The parts about languages are very interesting and they're explained in depth, but that's like a science part of this book. It's interesting, but the story part of this book is just not quite interesting to me. And I rated it 2.5 out of 5. Currently reading the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, and recently I read the novel The Assassin's Blade. I'm so into this book. I was so interested to read more about Selena and everything she went through before Throne of Glass series, and the only thing I can say that I was really enjoying this book, and I gave it 4.9 out of 5 stars. Next book I listened to, I don't have a physical copy of yet, and that's Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. This book could potentially be my book of the month book, which I haven't decided on yet, but I think it will be. It's just a cozy countryside feel-good book that's not heavy, and I really loved the feeling of it. And I actually discovered that's the first book in a series, and I was very happy to hear that. So surely I'm going to read all of the books in the series, and there's a lot. And of course I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I've read this month is The Sisters of the Winterwood by Rena Rosner. I hope I pronounced the writer's name well. Unfortunately, again, a book that I had high expectations of, and I couldn't say that it's not a good book. It's very lyrical and interesting and has powerful motives, but I just didn't really expect it to be that. I expected it to be a magical fantasy novel that I will dive into, but it was actually more of a think about book, and it was more of a lyrical book that you should think about and then you could annotate really well. It's hard for me to say that it was a boring book because I know that the message it should carry is powerful, and I will read you what it says on the back. In a remote village surrounded by forests on the border of Moldova and Ukraine, Sister Liba and Leia have been raised on the honeyed scent of their mommy's babka and the low rumble of their tati's prayers. But when a troop of mysterious men arrives, Leia falls under the spell. As dark forces close in on their village, Liba and Leia discover a family secret about the magical heritage they never knew existed. The sisters realize the old fairy tales are true and could save them all. Sounds interesting, and it's really just like a elongated folk story. And I love folk stories, don't get me wrong, but this was just, I didn't feel that punch of a story in it. And I rated it 2.5 out of 5. And now that I think about it, it's definitely better than Babel, and I think that Babel should be maybe 2 out of 5, or this should be maybe 2.7 out of 5. Almost forgot about this one. I also read Mort by Terry Pratchett, and I absolutely loved it. I also annotated it, and I really love the design of this edition. And I would, with time, really love to have all of the books in this World series in this edition. And I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. And I'm currently reading Stephen King's Billy Summers, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. I never read a Stephen King book before, and I'm very excited to see how this book ends. I thought I would read it, I would finish it in January. That didn't happen, but doesn't matter. So yeah, I already see that this could be a 5-star. So that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye!